Today, I'm going to be letting Madden decide what the Cincinnati Bengals should do at their quarterback position during Joe Burrow's absence. So, what I've done is I have added 6 different quarterbacks to the Cincinnati Bengals roster and created 6 different Madden sims for each one of those quarterbacks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate an entire season starting at the 2-0 point that the Bengals are already at. And I'm going to sim the rest of the season from that point to see which one of these quarterbacks does the best job and finishes with the best record for the Bengals. And the first one that we are going to be simming with is Jake Browning. So we obviously simmed the first 2 weeks of the season because Burrow did play in those games, and I did force win both of the games because the Bengals did start the season 2-0. But from this point on, the season is going to ride as far as Jake Browning goes. So what I've done is I've made him the starting quarterback, as you can see here. If I go to the depth chart, Jake Browning is starting quarterback, and Joe Burrow is second string. Now, I can't make Burrow get injured in this game. I doesn't surprise me, though. It'd be kind of cruel if you could just make people get hurt. So I just put Browning ahead of him on the depth chart, and then I turned injuries off. So all these quarterbacks will play the rest of the season, guaranteed as the starter, and we will not have to worry about Burrow overtaking them because they get injured. So we're going to start simming here. Let's sim to the mid-season point, and let's see how Jake Browning is doing. All right, so at the mid-season point, after a 2-0 start, the Bengals are 3-4, and we can take a look at the schedule, see who they lost to. They got the first 2 wins of the season. They lose 4 straight games, and then they finally get a win against the Steelers on Thursday Night Football in Week 7. Let's take a look at Jake Browning's stats, and let's see what he's looking like right now. Honestly, not too bad. Jake Browning got 1,407 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions up to this point of the season. But now here's the real test. The Bengals are 3-4 at the midway point of the season, can really only afford to lose 3 more games. So let's sim to the end of the season and see if Jake Browning can lead the Bengals to a wild card spot. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. End of the season, the Bengals finish 8-9, and it looks like they missed the playoffs. We'll view the bracket real quick just to make sure. Yep, definitely missed the playoffs. But an 8-9 season, not too shabby, kind of middle of the pack. A little bit more than I was expecting out of Jake Browning, I'm not going to lie. Let's go ahead and check out our schedule for the remainder of the season. Oh, not playoff schedule. Let's check our team schedule and see how we did. So after that loss to the Steelers, or that win against the Steelers, we beat the Jets, lost a couple of wins, 3 straight losses against tough opponents, albeit the Ravens, the Bills, and the Ravens again. But we finished the season 8-9. That is one thing with the Bengals. They do play in a very tough division. They have to deal with a lot of tough teams in their division, so it's not the easiest schedule for them. So 8-9, pretty respectable for Jake Browning. Now let's go ahead and check out the stats for the season. Jake Browning, actually he finished 3rd in the league in passing yards with 35 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, 4,275 yards passing. That is a lot better than I had expected. I mean, that is props to Jake Browning. I mean, 4th in the NFL in passing touchdowns, 3rd in the NFL in yards, and then 23rd in rating. But I mean, that's actually a lot better than I thought. I mean, I guess when you have receivers like this, it's not too bad. But I mean, the Madden sim must love Yoshavash. 1,400 yards and 19 touchdowns for the Bengals wide receiver 3. I mean, he outperformed Chase and T. Higgins by a pretty wide margin as well. But honestly, I mean, that is kind of an insane stat line for whatever Jake Browning is, like a 68 overall quarterback. I mean, that's a lot better than I was expecting. The fact that they didn't win enough games to make the playoffs is kind of surprising when your quarterback actually played that well. But that'll be it for the first sim. Jake Browning, assuming that the Bengals do nothing, finishes the season 8-9 and goes absolutely nuclear on the stat sheet. 4,275 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, and 15 picks. Now let's see if our next quarterback can do any better than this. And now our next quarterback that is going to be simming for the Bengals is going to be Mike White. Now, the only reason that I picked Mike White to sim for the Bengals is because they actually did sign him in real life. So if this is the route that they're going to go, we're going to see how this works out for them. I'm not sure if they're going to be worrying about starting him or if they just signed him as a backup. But either way, they did sign him. So I am going to put him on the team, and I am going to sim a season with him just to see how he does, to see how it would work out in real life for the Bengals if they actually do decide to go with him. So real quick, let me just adjust the depth chart, make sure he's starting. He is. So we got 65 overall Mike White leading the Bengals from this 2-0 starting point during week 3. Let's sim up to midseason, and let's see if he can do any better than the 3-4 record that Mike White, or excuse me, that Jake Browning had. All right, here we go. Midpoint of the season, Mike White leads the Bengals to a 4-3 record, which is better than where Jake Browning had them at. But let's take a look at the schedule. Let's see what their losses were. They start the season with 4 straight wins. They beat the Vikings and the Broncos, and then they go on a slide against the Lions, the Packers, and the Steelers with abysmal offensive performances. So not looking as hot for Mike White. Let's check out the stats. They are better record-wise, but he is down near the bottom of the league with only 1,091 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions through the first 7 games of the season. Not the best look for Mike White. I mean, I guess he's only played 5 games, so there are 5 games of the season. Not the best look for Mike White. Definitely needs some improvement here on the back half of the season. All right, let's sim ahead to the playoffs, and let's see where we finish this season off with Mike White as our starter. All right, moment of truth. Let's see our record. All right, 5-12. Not what we wanted. Definitely not what we wanted. Let's take a look. We don't really need to look at the schedule. Let's just take a look at the stats. Let's see how Mike White did. We only won 5 games, so 2 of them were the beginning. So Mike White only took us to 3 wins. 3,891 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 21 interceptions. Perfect 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. And then as far as receiving goes, his top target was obviously Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Both go for over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns apiece. Yoshavash with a steep fall off compared to where he was at with Jake Browning. But you know what? That's kind of to be expected with Mike White. Good player in real life. Obviously not a high overall in Madden. Probably not going to sim well. But that's going to do it for the quarterbacks that are actually already on the Bengals roster. I just wanted to sim with them just to see how they would do. But now it's going to get to the fun part. So I've got, I think, 4 different quarterbacks that I have traded to the Bengals, signed onto their roster. And I'm going to sim with those 4 quarterbacks and see how they do if the Bengals were to decide to bring in somebody else from the outside. I hope all you Bengal fans out there are ready to eat some W's, because the first quarterback that I have picked to add to your roster is Jameis Winston. Now, Jameis Winston was an obvious pick for me to add to this roster. I mean, he is the highest overall third-string quarterback in the game, and he is definitely going to be highly sought after for any teams that need a quarterback on their roster at any point if they have any injuries. He's a veteran guy. He's proven himself to be a good quarterback in this league. Has his ups and downs for sure, but definitely a good player to have. And I know if the starting quarterback on my team ever got hurt, I'm down for the Jameis Winston experience. So let's just make sure real quick before I start this sim that I have him as our number 1 quarterback, which I do, and Joe Burrow down there, 3rd string. Now let's sim up to mid-season with Jameis, and let's see how he does. Let's see if he can outperform our leader, Jake Browning, and see if he can throw for more touchdowns and more yards than Browning did, who is our current leader. All right, here we are at the midpoint of the season. Let's see if Jameis can lead us to a better record than Mike White did. Mike White currently has our best midseason record, and Jake Browning has our best stats. Let's take a look, and Jameis is going to tie the record, the best record with Mike White. We're going to be 4-3 at the midway point of the season. Let's take a look at our stats. Let's see how Jameis is looking. 1,366 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So pretty solid performance so far from Jameis. High completion percentage as well as 62%. I think that's the highest that we've had out of all the quarterbacks that we've simmed so far. And then as far as receiving goes, Chase is leading the way. Of course, 637 yards and 4 touchdowns. But Jameis putting up respectable stats. We do have a tough opening half of the season schedule-wise with the Bengals, so that it does kind of excuse the losses. I'm pretty sure we have to play some very tough teams like the Lions and the Packers and the Steelers. The Vikings are a good team. The Broncos are a good team. I mean, this is not a favorable opening half schedule for the Bengals. So losing Joe Burrow really does hurt them. But can't expect to sim with a backup quarterback and beat teams like that. But let's sim to the end of the season, and let's see how Jameis looks. Let's see if he can be the first quarterback to lead the Bengals to a playoff spot. All right, Jameis, let's see what you got for us. Oh, a 6-11 record. Definitely not the best. I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting a little bit more out of Jameis here, but definitely not making the playoffs at a 6-11 record. But we can at least check out the stats. Jameis finishes the season 4,060 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 19 interceptions. So still, Jake Browning has been our best performing quarterback up to this point. Jameis, kind of a dud season. He kind of let us down. I was expecting a little bit more from him, to be honest. But I guess Madden does not think of as highly of Jameis Winston as I do. So not the best season from Jameis. Missed the playoffs yet again. Now let's just go on to our next quarterback and see if he can do any better. Minshew Mania has hit Cincinnati. The next quarterback that I'm going to sim with is Gardner Minshew. Now, Gardner Minshew is similar to Jameis in the fact that he is kind of that journeyman backup quarterback who has proven to be a good player in this league, but really only in spurts. He's never really been able to string it together consistently. But again, he is another guy who I believe could be potentially available if the Bengals were to look into signing somebody or bringing somebody else in. So we're going to sim with Gardner Minshew and see how he does. All right, let's see if Minshew Mania has been good to us. 3-4 record, so pretty much about the same that everybody else is getting. It's usually 3 or 4-4-3. We'll see if anybody else that we have lined up can get us to that 5-win mark, but so far has not been able to happen. Take a look at the schedule real quick. Won 3 of our first 4, and then a 3-game slide against 3 tough opponents yet again. But we are putting up some points, so Gardner Minshew might actually be putting up some good stats for us. Let's take a look. 1351 passing yards, 8 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions, so not as good as I had thought originally. They must be getting a lot out of the running game if they're putting up that many touchdowns. Yeah, Chase Brown 4 touchdowns, and then obviously Jamar Chase is going to be our top receiver up to this point. Not too flashy numbers. I mean, 23rd in the NFL, 20th in touchdowns, 23rd in yards, up to the midway point of the season. Let's see if Gardner Minshew can take us to our first playoff spot with the Bengals in all these sims. All right, let's see how Minshew Mania treated us this season. Oh, another 5-12 record. Not the best. I'm starting to think that the Bengals just kind of have a really, really rough schedule for anyone trying to... Oops, not playoff schedule. For anyone trying to come in as a backup quarterback and lead this team. They have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive losses there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not the best season for the Bengals. Gardner Minshew only managing to lead us to 3 wins against the Browns, the Patriots, and the Broncos. So not the best season from Gardner Minshew record-wise. Let's take a look at the stats and see how we did. 3,970 yards, 28 passing touchdowns, and 23 interceptions. The 23 interceptions definitely hurt, but other than that, I mean, almost 4,000 yards and 28 touchdowns. That's a pretty good mark for a guy just coming into a team that he's never played on before and learning a new offense. So, that's pretty good. Obviously, Chase, Higgins and Chase again leading the way. These guys steady, consistent, no matter who's at quarterback, they're getting over 1,000 yards a season. So that just goes to show how good they are, even though it is a Madden sim. Yoshivage has been impressive too. I mean, he almost broke 1,000 yards as well. So 9 touchdowns. It seems like their receiving core is good enough that, no matter who they put in at quarterback, they're still going to have some success. So we'll see. But I mean, up to this point, Jake Browning is still the best of the best. Let's head on to our next quarterback. The next quarterback we're going to sim with is Shedeur Sanders. Man, they really did Shedeur Sanders dirty with this face scan. That is
What the hell?
They did not put a lot of effort into that. So, I mean, that's not even close. It's an auto-generated face scan right there. Now this is one that is probably not going to happen in all likelihood. I think the Browns are probably not going to be trading Shedeur Sanders to anyone, especially a division rival. But this is one that I thought would be kind of a fun sim because I have been seeing some people on the internet going around saying, they should get Shedeur Sanders. They should bring in Shedeur Sanders, give him an opportunity. But again, not something that I think is going to happen, but it is fun. So let's see if we could. We already got him up at a starting quarterback. Let's sim to the midseason point and let's see how we're doing. All right, here we go. Let's see if Shador can do any better. 4-3 record, not too bad. It seems like we're really struggling with this Lions, Packers, Steelers stretch. It seems to be really hard for us right now. Let's take a look at our stats midway point of the season. Shador Sanders, 1,398 yards, 9 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Not too bad. Not too bad for a rookie, especially somebody coming into a completely new team. But again, we're not really expecting much. We do have a tough schedule here. It's this stretch right here that we really struggle with. These Lions, Packers, Steelers. That's 3 back-to-back-to-back. Really tough matchups. So can't really blame them for losing those. But at least they're starting out the season strong. But it is pretty promising. We'll see. Shador Sanders to a 4-3 record. It's a little better than I thought. Let's see how we finish the season out. Let's see if he can be the first one to lead us to a playoff spot. All right, let's see how Shador finished out the season. 6-11 record, so pretty much right there with everyone else. A little bit better than some. Let's take a look at the stats for the end of the season. He's actually 4th in the league in passing yards, 4,225, with 25 touchdowns and 20 interceptions. It seems like every single one of these guys is throwing a whole lot of interceptions. And then, of course, the receiving core, Jamar Chase leading the way, Yoshavash with 1,200 yards, and T. Higgins. The first time, I think T. Higgins didn't break 1,000, if I'm not mistaken, in all these sims. But still, Jamar Chase is obviously leading the way, 122 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 9 touchdowns. But not too bad of a season from Shador. What was he? He was 4th in the league in passing yards, 20th in the league in touchdowns. So a few more touchdowns would have been nice. But, he's getting the yardage. He's doing pretty good. He did pretty good, excuse me. A little bit better than I thought. 6-11 record, though. Still not really what we're looking for. Still not able to make the playoffs. Our last hope for the Cincinnati Bengals season is a familiar face for them, former franchise quarterback Andy Dalton. Now, I thought this would be an interesting move for the Bengals to bring in a guy that they had there for so long as their franchise quarterback. The return of the Red Rifle in Cincinnati. Let's get it. Let's see how he can do. Starting the season, obviously 2-0. Behind the first 2 wins of the season. Let's see what he does up to the midpoint of the season. All right, let's see how he does up to the midpoint. 4-3 ties our best record up to the midpoint of the season, and he does lead us to wins over the Packers and the Steelers, which are 2 teams that I don't think we have beaten up to this point. Does suffer losses to the Vikings, Broncos, and Lions, but then we're kind of starting to get hot right before we take on the Jets and the Bears, and then into our bye week. So it seems like Andy Dalton's starting to pick it up. Maybe the return of the Red Rifle to Cincinnati is going to be exactly what they need. 1,412 yards, 9 touchdowns up to this point of the season. 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So pretty similar. I think, to Shador's numbers. I think he's almost identical to the numbers that Shador had. But up to this point, I mean, that's pretty good. We're beat two really good opponents. 2 people that we have not been able to beat up to this point with anyone else. So promising. Hopefully we can carry on this momentum into the back half of the season. And we'll see if Andy Dalton can lead us to our first playoff appearance. All right, moment of truth. We'll see if the return of the Red Rifle is a boom or a bust in Cincinnati. Can he lead us to our first playoff spot in all the sims? He is our last hope. This is the last quarterback that I have on this team. Oh, 7-10 record. Honestly, not too bad. He does come out as the second best quarterback record-wise for us in all these sims. Let's take a look at the stats. Let's see how we did. 3rd in the league in pass yards, 4,120, 21 passing touchdowns, and again 21 interceptions. So it seems like the backup quarterbacks are throwing a lot of interceptions, which is not what you need compared to the first 2 weeks of Joe Burrow. 8 touchdowns and 1 pick. Definitely a decrease in touchdown interception ratio there. Not ideal. As far as receiving goes, 1,300 yards for Chase, 1,200 for Yoshua, 1,100 for Higgins, and they're always gonna produce no matter what. Those 3 guys are really good at what they do, so it doesn't matter who's throwing them the ball, they're gonna produce. It seems like the lack of a rushing attack is really hurting them as well. A lot of pressure on the quarterback here to perform, and they're living up to it, but they're also turning the ball over a lot more than they need to be. But a 7-10 record. It seems like the best option for the Bengals, according to Madden, is going to be just sticking with Jake Browning. I mean, Jake Browning did, according to all these Madden sims, all these quarterbacks that I brought in to try to save the Bengals season. Seems like none of it was ever worth it, and they should just stick with who they got, Jake Browning. I mean, he did go out there against Jacksonville and throw multiple interceptions, but at the end of the day, he did get the win. So, I mean, if you're winning games, you might as well stick with the guy, and Madden seems to agree with that. Out of all the quarterbacks, Jake Browning was the best one, according to Madden. Almost snuck him into the playoffs, 8-9 record. You know what? I mean, that it surprised me. I'm not gonna lie. I did not think out of all these quarterbacks, I did not think Jake Browning was going to be the best one to sim, but he was. And according to Madden, the Bengals should just stick with Jake Browning for their best chances this season.